This episode is brought to you by First Cup Coffee Company. First Cup is a Christian-owned patriot coffee company that stands for core values, family, and building community across the nation. First Cup's freshly roasted beans are delivered in ground or whole bean texture, pods, and bulk. There are 11 roast profiles to choose from, each one named after a piece of this great country's history, like the Washington, named after America's first president, or my favorite, the John Hancock, named after the first founding father to proudly sign the Declaration of Independence. First Cup doesn't sell burnt coffee like Starbucks and all the other guys. All coffee is shipped within days of being roasted, and each subscription offers free shipping and the flexibility to cancel at any time. Go to firstcup.com and use the promo code FEARLESS and save an additional 10% on your order. And if you subscribe, save an additional 10% for the life of your subscription. Enjoy your first cup. I do.
Caitlin Clark is the Taylor Swift of women's sports. And you know what? We do not mess with Taylor Swift. We do not mess with Caitlin Clark, because the Swifties will come for you. The Clarksies, whatever you want to call them, are going to come for you.
Gregg Doyel went viral last week. He's a columnist for the Indianapolis Star, a sports columnist for the Indianapolis Star. Been infamous in the sports writing lane for a long time. He's a bit socially awkward. So when I saw this story last week, or when this happened last week or 10 days ago, Caitlin Clark, the WNBA player, the college basketball star, has her first press conference in Indiana as the newest member of the Indiana Fever, the number 1 overall draft pick. And Gregg Doyel did something awkward as a first question, and now it's come out this week that the Indianapolis Star has suspended him for 2 weeks, and as the top sports columnist at the Indianapolis Star, he's not going to be allowed to cover her games this summer, this season. Seems like a bit of an overreaction, but I want to play you all the interaction between Doyel and Caitlin Clark, and then there was a big, quick social media reaction that I thought kind of blew it out of proportion. I don't agree with what Doyel did here, but seems like a bit of an overreaction. Let's play the clip.
Hi, Caitlin. Gregg Doyel, IndyStar. Real quick, let me do this.
You like that?
I like that you're here.
That's him
I
doing
like
that.
that you're here.
I do that at my family after every game, so.
Okay,
it's
well,
pretty
let's
cool.
start doing it to me, and we'll get along just fine. So.
That's what he did.
Yeah.
Twitter came after him because he's not a likable guy. He is awkward. Yeah. He kind of leaned into the controversy. I think he ended up writing a column about it and apologizing, and he did a bunch of little awkward things. They've suspended him for 2 weeks. He can't cover her games. Is this an overreaction, Breanne?
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, listen, if women want to be respected in the sports world, whether you're a player or you're in the media, you got to stop being so sensitive. He's not being sexual. He's being just pretty benign, I think, just throwing up a heart sign, something that she does. It adds humor to it. He's probably trying to, as an awkward person, trying to find some middle ground before he jumps into it with his questions. I don't see anything wrong with it. We got to stop being so sensitive and suspending men for saying stuff or doing things like that are really just innocent. We've become way too sensitive as a society. That was a lot.
I'm going to take the other side, guys. I haven't been here for very long, but I do pay attention. And Caitlin Clark is the Taylor Swift of women's sports. And you know what? We do not mess with Taylor Swift. We do not mess with Caitlin Clark, because the Swifties will come for you. The Clarksies, whatever you want to call them, are going to come for you. I feel like in media, in culture right now, I've never even heard. The only thing I heard about women's basketball, to be completely honest, is when the women's basketball player was stuck in Russia. That's the only thing I ever heard. And now we have America's sweetheart. I represented Charli D'Amelio. I mean, she was America's sweetheart. And if people were bullying Charli, I mean, TikTok would just take that video off. And you know what? I'm just saying, I'm not going to mess with Caitlin Clark, because she's now become a cultural icon. And I do agree. I don't think he probably should have been suspended. But, you know, I think when she said, oh, you like that? It's like, sir, please calm your hormones or whatever's going on to be like, oh, yeah, we'll be good. It was awkward. But, yeah, you can't even be a creep around Caitlin Clark because she's the Taylor Swift of women's sports.
Mika?
Taylor and Caitlin both bleed once a month. They are normal, regular people. So I thought he was being a cornball, but she's a grown woman. If he was saying this maybe to a 9-year-old, it would seem like, oh my God, he's creepy. But he didn't sniff her. We've seen worse from the president of the United States. So to me, yes, it was awkward, but I don't think it was worth a suspension at all because he really didn't say anything out of the way. And even if he was flirting, she's grown. And so I just think that it was an overreaction. We're just doing too much.
I don't like Gregg Doyel at all. And we got a tiny bit of a personal history, most of it one-sided. He'll try to troll me or try to put, he'll get into some kind of trouble and say, and basically he'll tweet out something or say something like, no, but Whitlock's the real bad guy. Be mad at him or whatever. I don't like him, but I think we've completely overreacted here. This was nothing that they turned into something. And if I would say, even if I were Caitlin Clark, I would correct this. I would be like, hey guys, your top sports columnists can't cover my games because we had an awkward 3 seconds. I think that's a win for her. You're the brand spokesperson or whatever. That could be a win for her coming to his defense and saying, hey, this is too far. We can handle this as adults. He's learned his lesson. He can cover our games. That's a win for Caitlin Clark.
You may be right, and she could have handled it that way, but I think they are trying to brand her as America's sweetheart. Do not mess with her. And I worked in hospitality when I lived in San Diego, and so the bottle girls were, kind of revealing clothing, and they bring the bottles. And sometimes I'll never forget because we had this manager who it didn't matter if the people were spending, $10,000, $20,000 at the table. Now this was usually like something went too far. If they touched the girl, or if they did really say something so disrespectful, I mean, it didn't matter how many bottles you got, you were out the door. And what I saw from like a team perspective is the girls felt respected. Like no amount of money is going to let me get disrespected. And I felt, and I saw it, that the women felt protected and just part of the team. So maybe that's what the team is trying to do with Caitlin Clark and the rest of the team and women's sports. So it just to me seems like a brand strategy that they're trying to make these girls like the All-American. We're not going to mess around any funny business. If you say something to try to get attention in a negative way, like you're out of here. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I just think that's what the strategy is.
Strategy I disagree with, perhaps.
I don't know. I think the WNBA needs all the attention it could get, and so you're probably not going to want to kick out all the reporters. I think you never want to stay there. So I don't understand why you kick the guy out. You need all the coverage you can get. No one's watching.
Well, they're going to be watching the Indiana Fever. Caitlin's first game, I think, is tonight. Regular season game is tonight. But you have hit on something, Ari, that the WNBA is a woke league, and it's filled with feminists, and it's filled with LGBTQ feminists. And so them perhaps going overboard, pressuring the Indianapolis newspaper or whatever, probably makes sense for the typical brand and culture of the WNBA. We're the angry feminists, and we're drawing a line in the sand. And how dare you do anything that's 2 seconds of creepiness? We don't want it. We don't want it to happen to any of our other players. So we got a man we can punish and say, there go the bad guy. I don't think that's a smart play for the WNBA. If you look at their draft night, they just had their biggest, most important draft ever, where all the women primarily that got drafted that night all presented themselves in a very feminine way that everybody loved. And everybody was like, oh, man, I watch women play basketball. I don't want to watch women that think they're men playing basketball. I want to watch women that are happy being women. And that's been a great pivot for the WNBA and has led to. So I think the WNBA is a little bit schizophrenic right now. They've had this old ID or identity where we're the angry women and we're all Megan Rapinoe inside, and Caitlin Clark and his new group or Angel Reese represents something else. I'm going to go back to this is a mistake for the WNBA. This is old school WNBA. We're angry feminists. How dare this man in any way flirt with us? Doesn't he know we hate men?
I mean,
I agree.
I disagree. Go ahead. You
Go ahead.
Yeah, Shamika.
No, I was just going to say, I agree. This was old school WNBA rhetoric, because if we're going to be taking a different approach, if these women are going to be coming out looking like women, men flirt. That's just what they do. And I don't like the way that we have over the years acted as if men shouldn't flirt. Men shouldn't look at us. Men shouldn't tell us that we're beautiful. Men like what they see sometimes, things, that are appealing to the eye, men respond. So in my opinion, Caitlin is not all that much of a looker to me. She should have felt very good that this man was even saying, hey, do this to me. That's just my opinion. I don't like the idea that we've made men feel like they're thirsty or they can't compliment us. I hate when a man says, I hope this doesn't offend you, but you look beautiful. It should never offend us. And I think we should just let people be people. I don't think he crossed the line. And I do think the response was angry feminists. It's the blue-haired, pink-haired, fat, ugly woman response. And I think they should have done better.
Ari, you going to defend that?
I just think it's not that deep. I don't think it's about wokeness. I don't think it's about angry feminists. I think it's like, the WNBA has an opportunity to be an all-American brand that's inclusive, that young people look up to these women, and if they want them to have this fan base that's protective of Caitlin and the other players, just like Taylor Swift fans are protective of Taylor. Like, for example, if Taylor Swift is friends with somebody and that person follows Scooter Braun on Instagram, the Swifties go nuts. Why is he following Scooter Braun? Because Taylor has beef with Scooter Braun. So they go nuts over it because they're protecting, and it's the fandom. And so it's this understanding of how cultural and fandoms are built. And Charli D'Amelio is another great example. She came up kind of out of nowhere.
For those of us that are old farts, who's Charli D'Amelio?
Charli D'Amelio is the biggest TikTok star. She came up on TikTok in 2019. I think she makes $17 million a year, or her family does.
What?
She has a Hulu show about her family, about being a content creator. She does brand deals. I mean, I saw she has a Dunkin' Donuts. She was in the Dunkin' Donuts commercial with all those stars in the Super Bowl. Addison Rae, another one I represented, she was also in the Super Bowl. So the reason why they went to superstardom is because all these brands are like, this is the American dream now for young people. They want to be the Charli D'Amelio. They don't see themselves as, young men used to see themselves as like, I want to be Michael Jordan. That dream looks very hard to accomplish if you're not tall, if you're not all these things. But to be a social media star, well, Charli did it. And what was she before? She was just going to high school. So I think that these young people idolize, these social media stars. And so I think probably the people around Caitlin are seeing the attention that she's getting. We could make her that next Charli D'Amelio, Taylor Swift. And I think it's a good strategy, honestly. I would want to keep the negativity away. I wouldn't want to have people, attention is a currency in the day that we live in today. So if you're allowing negative attention into the realm, well, you're allowing that money to be spent, that currency. So if you say, I'm only going to allow positive currency around these women, I just think it's a strategy, and I don't think it's a bad one, but that's my opinion.
I just have one correction for Ari. Just one correction. She said the Swifties will go nuts. I want to say the Swifties are nuts. That's the only correction I do.
Don't miss a second of Fearless. Hit that like button and subscribe to keep up with our latest content.